Everyone knows you should never take a physicist to a sci-fi movie. The same can be said about a biologist and a creature feature. We can point out how certain things are biologically unlikely or downright impossible, but that would be boring. So rather than pointing out what can't happen, why not ask ourselves, what if it was real? So using my super nerd levels of knowledge about biology, physics, and mythical creatures, my friends and I will explore how different creatures could have actually evolved on our planet and what they potentially would look like. Hello, and welcome to A Real Creature Feature. I'm Matt Kuklinski. I have a degree in natural science life from Stevens Point, which basically just means I took a lot of science classes, and I have a biology minor. I then went to and got a certification at MATC for biotechnology, and then I've been working at a hospital laboratory for the last 8 years. So I know a lot about random biology things, but I'm not an expert and never going to claim I am one. Just knowledgeable about random stuff.
Do you want me to go next
Yep.
then? Okay. Well, I'm Mike. I graduated from college with a degree in American Studies. It's basically a liberal arts degree because I am a weirdo who just did everything and then ran out of money. So I I have a curiosity to learn what I can about things. I have an active imagination and am a writer. So I ask a lot of dumb questions about things that I want to know more about, regardless of whether or not I'm going to like the answer, Mac.
Okay, Dean.
Hello, I am Dean. I also went to college for art and theater.
Yeah, we're
You went to college for fart?
ooh.
For art
Well,
and
uh,
theater.
Hilton.
So put those together and I went for thart.
Yeah, we're all a bunch of theater geeks too. We
mhm.
all were in all our performances in high school. So yeah, this time around I was like, I'm gonna actually write stuff down and not go off the cuff as much. So I do have a bunch of stuff, and you will be able to tell when I'm reading because it will be stilted and slow because I am a slow reader. But I do want to talk about something that was because I was just randomly looking at some stuff too, and one of it was about the evolution of snakes, and I just learned this, and I thought it was really kind of cool. We don't know where snakes came from.
Wait. Okay. I'm gonna stop you right there, son. I don't need to know where the danger noodle came from to know he's a danger.
Yeah. No, I mean like they don't know like on the evolutionary tree
Yeah.
where the original snake like came like branched
The-
from. So like we know like Mesosaur, I guess eventually branched off into where Komodo dragons. I was like, what? How does that work?
Magic.
I
The Bible. Thank you very
I
much.
guess so.
God did it.
They also don't know if snakes first evolved on land or in the ocean.
Mm.
They do know that they lost, all snakes lost their ears. So that's how you know the difference between a snake and a lizard that just doesn't have arms is if they have ears or not.
Now here's the question. Now let's talk. Now, can I ask about armless lizards?
There are a couple. I've actually seen a couple, and or they have like really really small arms, and they're just like
Kind of like
elongated lizards. It's actually yeah.
weird. I don't see. I
Well,
don't trust
snake
these. Oh yes.
Is Dean?
I think they came from worms. Worms just mutated and grew scales and finally
and also a
developed a tongue.
and also a spine.
Yeah,
Can I say this? I'm
it's
I'm
just
going
the
to.
worms we got right now are just lazy.
They're unwilling to jump the hump like the monkeys. Is that why we have
Correct.
monkeys? Is that why we have monkeys?
Yeah.
I'm going to say this right now. If it turns out that the armless lizards are just like evolved snakes now, they're getting their ears back. I'm gonna be real mad.
So that's
I'm
actually
gonna be real.
yeah. So that's actually really cool. I think I did talk about this last episode about evolution. Is you can get stuff through evolution, but if you lose it, it's harder to get it back.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And I was like, so I don't think they're ever going to evolve arms again, just because it's like it would be like us evolving another set of arms. Because I'm like, you're working with nothing.
Oh man. Well now, see now challenge accepted.
Though to be fair, well, no. So like whales, it started off as a land animal that was like in the same genus or something of like cows and other ruminants. Which also I just learned this too. Whales also headbutt for dominance.
So you're okay. So I know now. I now know two things. So the whales are now the actual sea cows.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
They're more distant than cows, but I'm like I can't remember the actual name of the entire group that they're in. But if you look at their flippers, they look like they came from arms and stuff like that.
I knew whales headbutted for dominance.
I didn't-
I just don't understand why they think that's a good idea.
Why do rams think it's a good idea?
Well, I don't know. I look, look. I've tried ramming Dean. I've tried headbutting Dean for dominance, and all he does is cry.
Well, there you go. You showed dominance.
Uh,
You won.
Dean, Dean. I hate to say this. I think we've lost you. I can hear you. I could hear you through. I could hear you through the door.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know. Okay.
Okay, now you're back.
yeah. Yeah. Keep us
All
going,
right.
man. I want to keep you on.
Yeah.
All right. I was just saying that rams butt heads because they have horns. It's the whole thing of football players get more concussions now because they have helmets and they ram each other and get concussions. But so I just have this idea though that whales are the rebellious teenagers of evolution. We spent all that time getting out of the ocean, and then they are like, "Know what? Land sucks. I'm going back in."
Now, okay, but I also am going to take another thing out of your discussion of football players. Are you saying that we should give football players horns?
No, I'm
Ah,
saying give them their leather helmets back so that they know that they're not supposed to slam into each other.
I feel like this is going to be very counterproductive. Curly
Yeah.
Lambo,
It-
Curly Lambo didn't die for this.
yeah. I'm pretty sure it's kind of like saying that long prison sentences are gonna stop prevent crimes. It's like, no, they don't. People just are gonna do what they do, and you're just gonna have more people who die earlier rather than prolonged head injuries.
Aw.
I guess there was a myth for a long time. A lot of people didn't think rams and like muskox get concussions, and this lady who's doing the research like now found out. It's like, I don't think that's true. I'm going to study this. And she was telling the story about this poor musk ox that like is in the middle of a field, like, and just stares off because he's had so many concussions. So he's like a doddering old man. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's basically there's a condition where you can't really, because you can't actually see a lot of damage when you do a CAT scan, or like or at least this particular type of damage. Like you literally can't see it until an autopsy, and you can't even see it after like a certain amount of time because the brain starts to decay it, everything. So it's like she needed like fresh rams and fresh everything. So she like would had her feelers out. She's like, if one of these animals die, please send its head, which is a weird thing to send over the mail.
Send me, send me a ram. I need it fresh because frozen is just never as good.
Yeah. And because you remember in wrestling, Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they did an autopsy, his brain was messed up. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what they think. Like that's what really kind of caused his psychotic break was head injuries, and a lot of them. Because like I said, like you can't do a scan of it. You have to look at it.
Yeah.
So it's
But
like, ooh,
that always blows my mind because it's like everyone's like, well, wrestling is fake. I'm like, no, it's choreographed.
yes,
The hits are real.
yes. I'm looking at that. I'm like, we were at the Up Down bar down here, and
Yeah.
they always have like older wrestling specials or episodes playing. And yeah, we're just watching, and I'm like, even if that's the lightest ladder in the world, getting hit with it is still going to hurt.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh,
I took judo in college. You get trained how to hit the ground pretty hard, and the training is to lessen the blow. It doesn't mean it
Mhm.
makes it not hurt. It sucks. And you can get a concussion.
People's just nuts.
Yeah.
Peoples is nuts, and I like wrestling. I just don't like the way wrestlers get treated.
Oh yeah, I learned that they also don't have insurance.
Oh yeah, no,
Yep.
it's the worst. It
Vince,
it is the
Vince
worst.
McMahon is a piece of garbage.
Yep, absolutely. He is a garbage human.
Yeah.
Like so many other people in a big entertainment business, most of them are garbage humans.
Yeah, especially when you've been making lots of money for 40 years.
Yep.
Mhm.
But I like how this has really gone off the
Yeah, this has really gone off the train.
but I feel like that's always going to be the case with us.
Oh,
But
100%. So I'm going for
so
So, whales headbutt.
yes.
so whales do headbutt. It's weird. Why? Don't know. So do you think so? Can whales be? So I mean, now that we cannot, now that it's easy to autopsy a dead whale, do you think we'd see concussions in dead whales?
I'm gonna say if you have a brain, you can have a concussion.
Mm,
Now, you can
Pretty good statement.
yeah, you can evolve a natural helmet or something like that in your skull to lessen all that, but you're probably still gonna get a concussion no matter what.
well, that's bad.
Yeah.
Concussion's bad.
Good thing
Don't get
good thing
concussion.
humans don't really do headbutting for dominance.
Yeah.
Well, at least not all of us. Some of us do.
Well, now,
That's why I don't go to bars.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm gonna start on some of the stuff that I wrote down.
okay.
So luckily we have a bunch of nerds on the internet that have been looking into how could a dragon breathe fire.
Yeah.
And so I looked up a bunch of different articles and I was looking at them too because this is, interesting because it was like so there is such a thing as the bombardier beetle, which like can naturally like it was really kind of cool. It like mixes hydrogen no, that's fuss. Because I also have it written down, so I don't have to try to remember it. So this article, it was by Anne Marie Helmenstein, PhD, and I got it through thoughtco.com. The science
Nice.
behind flying and breathing
Mm,
fire breathing
okay.
dragons. So this one
Neat.
part that I highlighted, it was just the bombardier beetle, family Carbida. Yes, I can't speak Latin or Greek. Uh, stores hydroquinines. That's not how you pronounce it, but it's hydroquinones, and hydrogen peroxide in the abdomen, in which it ejects when threatened. The chemicals mix in the air and undergo an exothermic, so heat releasing, chemical reaction. Essentially, the spraying the offender with an irritating, boiling hot liquid.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the cool thing about chemistry. It's like you can get things that just you mix together and they will do an exothermal reaction. But like you don't want them in you all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just blow up. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that would make sense because obviously, you know, things get things get real complicated as the heat rises.
This is from another article on sciencenewsforstudents.org. Nature shows how how dragons might breathe fire by Bethany Brookshire. And this one fire has three basic needs: something to ignite the blaze, fuel to keep it burning, and oxygen, which interacts with the fuel as it burns. The last ingredient is the easiest to find because oxygen makes up 21% of the Earth's atmosphere. So it's like, ooh, that's kind of cool. That we know how fires start. You can rub two sticks together to make a fire start, so it's not that difficult. And I've seen plenty of like other people like we're talking about. All they have to have is it was kind of cool because some of these had like diagrams, and one of them was
Mhm.
this idea maybe they could have like a lizard, and that's where like they can
Yeah.
store rocks and that can actually cause a spark to do that.
Ah.
And I was like, oh,
Oh, get some flint
yeah.
and steel in the gullet.
And oh yeah, just there was actually a really interesting one. But yeah, this was one of the things was but some chemicals don't need an initial spark. Pyrophoric molecules burst into flames when they instantly contact the air.
Mm.
So but that one might you might have to have iridium to do that, which is also very rare of an element. So it's like that probably isn't a good idea. But it would also
Yeah, it's very
yeah.
it's rare now because all the dragons took it.
It explains everything.
Dun dun dun.
We have proven dragons.
Huzzah.
Okay, so
Okay,
this other one.
take that, science.
There are other pyrophoric chemicals that dragons might find a little closer to home. Notes Matthew Hartings. He's a chemist at the American University of Washington, D.C. Assume dragons like caves, which actually sounds reasonable since how many times they always have their hordes somewhere dark.
Yeah.
He begins, if you're living amongst a bunch of rocks, you'll have access to a high amount of iron. Iron can react with another chemical, hydrogen sulfide. This is a flammable gas that smells like rotting eggs, which actually a lot of times does come up when you talk about dragons, the fire and brimstone smell, which
Yeah.
smells like rotting eggs.
Mm.
It is found in crude oil when hydrogen sulfide and iron gets together, as in a rusty pipe, for example. It results in iron sulfide. Combine it with air, and you've got an explosive mix. Iron sulfide is something the culprit is sometimes the culprit when a pipe line just blows up, which makes perfect sense.
I will say I've had some experience, at least when it comes to crude oil, because I did spend 6 months in Texas, actually working in the Permian Basin in the oil fields, and that it was pretty crazy. Just everybody worried about something, but there are two things that everybody kind of worried about. It was always when we were working near the piping, because a lot of that ends up when we're getting because we did flowback where they were getting the water out, and out came crude oil with it as well, so always a huge ass stank. Um, and with that came out is a gas that gets produced along with the oil, completely scentless, it's invisible, so we always have to wear these detectors. And if that detector goes off, you gotta leave the area almost immediately. It's a super duper bad hazard. But the other thing is with some of our equipment because it all has to be sealed so tightly, if we have to take it apart to fix it, we have to hit it with sledgehammers, and because we have a lot of, like, in some of those areas, some of the crude oil vaporizes around it, we have to also be careful of errant sparks just because if an errant spark goes up, like, part of it is dangerous. Like, it would go up it would actually cause an explosion in the area. But we're usually pretty good, and God, though, that job was easy considering the fact, like, it could be potentially dangerous. It was probably safer than a lot of the other stuff that could be done, but, oh, I have some interesting stories, mostly from other people being dumb as hell. But, yeah, so I can understand that, I can get that, but with that idea of would there be anything that a dragon could actually produce that would create essentially a fire?
Yeah,
Like, could it
well, though that is a good but the guy actually did bring up a really or the well, Hardings does bring up an interesting thing in this article that Bethany wrote. Because there's something interesting when you got to think about this. So chemicals like the phosphenes, they're chemicals like phosphine, therefore aren't per dragon. Oh, they're not really good dragon solutions because the boiling point of phosphine is negative 84 degrees Celsius or negative 120 degrees Fahrenheit. In a room,
Oh,
a dragon's breath temperature, it would be a gas,
yeah.
so you'd have to be able to compress it. And I don't know of any natural equivalent like that because
Mhm.
that's the main issue. So this particular thing, it's like some of these things would be very difficult to actually naturally produce and also naturally store. So now what you could have is like a very very small pouch or pocket or something, and then but you'd have like a limited bleh,
Yeah.
about stuff, which then it would be only really good for um self defense or for small, like if you eat something small and you need it for cooking purposes. Because like in what was it? Game of Thrones, they're like there's only two creatures that eat their meat cooked: dragons and humans.
Yeah.
And also that would it'd be interesting because that could also lead credence to dragons being smarter, because depending on the lore, sometimes they're big dumb animals and sometimes they're smarter than humans.
Yeah.
And since there might be a correlation with us cooking food and us being smarter because we have easier access to nutrients.
Yeah. Which would be an interesting idea. But I
Yeah.
mean, let's be fair though. It's not like a wolf has the access to thumbs to really cook something.
Yeah. Yeah, and also they're more niched in their evolution too. That was actually probably why we evolved the way we did, is because we're not the top predators. Never were. Apex predators. We're not apex
Yeah.
predators. We always were the hunted and the hunters, and then eventually we just became the hunters.
Oh, we're just that good.
Yeah.
I
Uh
can make the stick sharp. I can make the stick sharper, so I can win.
Oh wait, and this one, okay, then it keeps going. A liquid also would help a dragon avoid burning itself. Harding's note: the liquid with its flammable gas would ignite as soon as it hits the air. Speed is key. As long as you are shooting it far enough, the particles don't hit the air until it's far enough away from you. Which is actually, we're gonna go double back about that in a bit, because I actually was doing a little bit of research on uh spitting cobras for this purpose, because I was like, ooh, because I was watching a bunch of different videos too about this, and a lot of the like the lamer ones, they were like the animated ones, like the fire was coming like literally out of their breath, and I'm like, you're burning your gums and your tongue
Mm,
and everything else. So I was like, that's probably not how it work, like practically, for anything, because ugh, um
So
now,
part of the cobra thing, is that gonna reference how fast a cobra can spit?
uh no, I don't think so. It can do it pretty quick, and actually it was actually cool because of some of the things I was looking at. They aim for the eyes, and there's some interesting like evolution, like when they started spitting, or the ones that do spit when they started, because it's like at a later date and like that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, and it might have something to do with the emergence of primates,
mm,
because it's also only a defense mechanism. Because
I
yeah, I was
mean
like,
that would.
it doesn't really work when you're not gonna want to shoot venom at a bigger prey than you, because you can't eat it, especially snakes,
Yeah.
because they don't have gnashing
How f-
jaws.
how
Forget you.
fast
I can
does
eat.
that
I can eat anything as big as I want. Ah.
how fast does the liquid have to go to ignite
uh,
the use?
for fire purposes, it's if it's like the ones that are dependent on um contact with the air, it's like basically right when it contacts with the air. So maybe if there's a
Okay.
mechanism of like for the hydrogen sulfide, like I don't know, like you have iron coated teeth or something, and then it mixes when it sprays out, which also would not be a good idea if you think about that one logically, because I'm like, oh, you have iron coated teeth, oh, that's cool. Then you're spraying an acid past it that's slowly eroding your teeth. How are you gonna eat anything without any teeth?
Well, you could ask my grandma how she does it.
Yeah, she has to eat soft foods or has to have dentures.
Yeah.
No, I guess
Well,
no. Yeah, because also then if you think about it too, what happens when you overcook a steak?
becomes very tough.
Mm. So you can't even have like, oh,
So,
that's
y-
what
so
fire's
what you're
gonna help.
saying is that dragons just need to learn how to sear their food.
Yes.
Okay.
But wait,
Now, now, would there? I'm gonna ask. I always had to ask the questions.
which is
Would
good.
there?
Makes
There's
us want.
got to be. Is there an idea of like, if it's got to be instantaneous, could a essentially, like with humans, like could there be a like glandular layer that it could say, like a layer of its gland that it could shed to send it out, like almost in a way of like doing a fireball where it could like release the liquid on contact so that when it hits the air, it would then explode.
See, that's why I was going. So yeah, we'll jump down, and because like when I was talking about the spitting cobras, that was the best idea that I could come up with. Was basically in a fire, how they had those two spurs at the end of their mouths that squirted the liquid, and that would be it.
Mhm.
That would be one of the best approaches. Was having how many of our chemicals you need, but you have to have it in like more than two components or more than one component. So then it like just sprays out and then mixes. Or so this is what I was talking about last time with the wings. I was like, the cool thing about evolution is there is no end goal. There is no um guide. There's no nothing with it. It's all random and everything else. And so it was like with wings, you can have multiple purposes for that rather than just be, oh, I'm going to use them for flight. It's like, oh wait, you know what I also can do use them with? Spreading
Yeah.
air, like mixing, causing something to mix up and like be
Oh.
further away from you, blow that air a little bit closer to your prey or whatever you're defending yourself with, and then it also will cause it to mix better, and then maybe that would be where it has a critical amount of mixing and it's farther away, and then you could have an explosion or something, a shockwave. It's because there's a lot of different mechanisms, and the cool thing about with mythology about a lot of these dragons is they're not all the same. There, I think it was like what black dragons in D&D. They are, uh, they spit like acid. They have acid breath. There's poison breath. There's ice breath. And in a lot of the earliest depictions of dragons in mythology, they aren't fire breathers. They're poison breathers. They breathe out poison. So you can even
Mm.
go down that route too, and then still, hey, I'm gonna blow this over by you, and depending on how fast it works, it can affect you. Because that was the thing about I was talking about with I was doing watching a lot of videos about just snakes. And the cool thing about that, like the evolution of venom, they're just like these kind of cool like random proteins that are just like constantly being mixed up and everything else, and it's like very similar to saliva. It's just venomous saliva. That's what venom is.
Yeah.
So it evolved from
Yeah.
the venom glands, and I was like, oh, that's really neat. All this stuff, and I was like, oh, wait, you could do it like this, and then all you have to have is some kind of a modification to make it like more aerosolized, so it's not just a stream like the spitting cobra, because that's what that one is. It's just two
Yeah.
two super soakers on in their mouths.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean, it's with the right combination. Like going back to my example of working in Texas, there would be times where where we'd hit air pockets when we were doing flowback, and what came out was just aerosolized water and oil. There would be nights where I'd go in, do my job, do some testing, and I would be coated in it.
Ugh.
Just absolutely, like, and I mean, like, head to toe coated, and it's just, and especially when the wind's in the right direction, man, I couldn't even go out wearing glasses just because it would just get I have to wear, like, some I actually had to buy a pair of safety goggles that did go fully around for those days that we had to deal with the aerosol of the oil, and it was awful. But I mean, it's just, I mean, with enough air, I think with enough, like, of that air mixture and just the right levels, I mean, it's easy enough to create an aerosol that could be used,
Yeah,
at least. But gotta keep them chompers, like, real nice, though, if
yeah.
you're gonna keep eating.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's like it's because there was like some of these that they're talking about having like coatings on the teeth, and yeah, I was just like that doesn't bode well for a species to have something
Yeah.
that
What
they would have to be something that you would have to be keep applying.
what if they had glands near their gums on the outside of the teeth?
Well, yeah, that would be the only way to probably do it. That's why I was like having the spur little things like in Rain of Fire, or even further up, like maybe it spits out the nose or something.
I've
They
never
just
seen Rain of Fire, so I didn't get that reference.
Okay. Yeah, in Rain of Fire, they
Uh,
had it that they had like these little glands at the sides of their mouths, and like it would squirt the fluid out, and then it would mix in the air like like a foot or two or three in front of them.
Okay.
And but yeah,
yeah.
also you could have it that you could have technically nothing's preventing a lot of these things moving around. Like you could have it that how they breathe out was just they hold their breath and they'll and blows it out their nose. Kind of like
Yeah.
how elephant could squirt. but then they would also have a bad sense of smell. But also,
It shoots it out of the sinuses connect to its eyes.
yeah. To which also, so you know that old story about like if you see a baby bird falling from a nest, you're not supposed to pick it up and put it back in the nest
Yeah.
because the mom won't accept it.
Yeah.
So why won't the mom accept it? Like, why were you told that?
Because well, from what we were told, it was always about the idea that your smell would rub off on the bird,
Mhm.
and then it wouldn't have the right smell, so the bird would be like, "Nope, screw you." And then
Yep. So that's also false.
yeah,
Birds have a really bad sense of smell. Because why would they need a good sense of smell? They're up in the air.
yeah.
So
And I mean
I was
that
like, I
also I
learned that. I
know.
was like,
So Adventure Time lied to me?
Yeah,
yes.
are you kidding me?
Oh,
I don't think
how could I
dragons would.
be betrayed?
I would say dragons would need better eyesight than they would have smell, though. Also, just
Yeah.
because if they were flying, what would they need it for? They just need to be able to discern prey from everything else.
Yeah.
And why would they want to continually smell their own rotten egg smell?
Yeah. Exactly. Now there could be a purpose for why you would want the smell, like because it's an arboreal, terrestrial creature because that's like how they always would be established. Like because that's why they're because so if you're looking at like a Quetzalcoatl or Quetzal,
Yeah,
the
no, you
largest
you had it right.
dinosaur,
Yeah,
that thing, it's really awkward on land. So the thing
yeah,
about like our wyvern slash dragon is that they always generally are pretty good on land and in the air. So like they might need a better sense of smell than a bird.
yeah.
But
They think they're so great.
yes. And also their eyes are probably really big, so that would also help with their being able to see. Um which is it was on because science episode, I just remember that. It was referencing the Lord of the Rings when Legolas was looking at all these things like way off in the distance, and it was just like, yeah, you could see all these details. It's like, no, you literally can't. Human eyes aren't like humanoid eyes aren't big enough to allow you to have seen that much information.
I've seen somebody illustrate that where his eyes are huge and the pupils are dilated so much to be able to try and pick up that detail from that far away.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever seen a freaking binoculars? Look at binoculars. The lenses aren't the same size as our eyes. Like, they can cheat a little bit with that, but you also can't have the close-up vision like we have.
Oh, so you're saying that you're saying that I need to re-edit Lord of the Rings to include binoculars for Legolas.
No, I want him to have giant mutant eyes.
I'm not gonna give him giant mutant eyes.
To which, if you ever watched or played like
Oh,
or the Elder Scroll, not Elder
yeah,
Scrolls,
yeah,
like all the elves in them, they have big eyes. They look very
yeah,
gray alien-esque eyes.
yeah,
So I was like, that I can say that guy could probably see farther than a normal human. Legolas not so much. I'm assuming he has a smaller head than me because I'm a bigger guy, so I don't think
yeah.
he could also see as far.
But
I'm sizist.
yeah, but you know what else Skyrim had? Dragons.
They don't
The
have
whole
the
thing.
four arms.
Yeah. Well, they're the Dragonbjorn. You're the Dragonbjorn, and you're here to
Born.
stop the dragons.
I always part in there when you like read like all the little side stuff between the scenes
Yeah.
or the sections, and one of them was because dragons use words of
Uh,
power. They're not actually fighting; they're just having a very violent discussion,
Yeah.
and I loved that. I was like, "That's a real cool way of thinking about it."
Yeah. Well, and I do appreciate though just the idea of the dragons having I do like the idea of the dragons because again, not I know this is not the video game podcast, but
It's gonna get there.
I don't I don't like Oblivion because it's this idea of they talk about this threat of the gates of Oblivion opening and it's time is of the essence. But you can go out to this arena and fight these things or go join like a guild. It's like, but what about the gates of Oblivion? Don't worry. Not till you do the thing. Don't worry about it, bro. Not
You
till you do this specific thing.
you are part of Destiny. So therefore, you are this important person, and Destiny is
No.
paying attention to you, and you have to trigger all these things. If you
That's
never
the
do
worst
these
part.
things, you You destroy the
No,
world.
that's the worst part. It's not me. I'm just the guy going to pick up the destined guy to go pick up the destined guy. Because in like this whole thing, you're part of this. Like the whole game opens, Oblivion opens. You're in prison for reason. Don't know what. Doesn't matter. But the king is trying to escape because your cell has the only alternate escape route out of the castle because he's being hunted by these demons and he dies
Sounds like a person
while
problem.
you're joining him on the escape attempt. So you have to go find the king's wayward heir so that he can stop the gates of oblivion. So yeah, you're just the delivery boy in that game,
Hmm.
and nothing. And but again, time is of the essence. But go do this other BS for yourself while you're at it. I'm not a fan of Oblivion. At least with Skyrim, it feels like deal with the dragons as you can,
Yeah.
but there's other stuff to deal with as well.
Vampires.
Oh yeah.
Building a house.
Vampires, werewolves,
I was a werewolf.
reordering the
I never turned
reordering the
myself.
Brotherhood. Yep. Gotta reorganize the Dark Brotherhood while you're at it. Just so many things to do. Start and or stop a civil war, your choice.
I don't know if I ever did. I was like,
I
screw you
s
guys. Deal with it
oh,
yourselves, you bunch of nerds.
uh, I took care of it, although I probably shouldn't because I played a red guard, and it's like everybody hates me everyone hates you when you're a red guard.
Yeah. That was my first character
It's
too.
weird. I was like, "This is weird that basically everyone who's a Nord hates you when you're a red guard," and I'm like, "Why? I've done nothing."
Racism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
that's it. It's just racism. Um,
Yeah.
and also, I was the master of the. I loved it because I also sucked at using magic, but I was still ahead of. I was the head of the academy. I'm just like,
Oh, nice.
I don't use magic. I use my words and my fists way more than I use magic. I suck at magic because I always forget about it.
N Not till I was halfway through did I finally figure out how to use the stupid soul stones.
Yes.
I was like, "How does this stupid stone work? I don't even understand it." And then, halfway through it finally something explained it to me. I'm like, "Oh, so you're telling me I could have been doing this whole time and truly been the master of magic?" Nope.
Yep.
Nope. Screw you. You don't get to be the master of magic.
Mm.
Oh. Anyway, though. Okay, now now that that diatribe's over. Dragons.
Dragons.
Dragons, they're real.
Dragons. So yeah.
Dragons, they're real, but we killed them. Or they're hibernating.
So the cool
Who
thing,
gives a shit?
one of the two. Cool thing is also that we could also talk about them just using methanol or ethanol, which would be basically very similar to the whole spark thing. Which,
Yeah.
now that I think about it, so like because there are a lot of things that can cause the production of this material. So like fungi, the yeast can produce ethanol instead of sugars. So maybe they could have a little side pouch or something like, or the gizzard part, an extra organ just to store that. Like even if it can't have a high amount of pressure, you can have the pressure from them like you having a muscle contraction that's squirting it up. And I was thinking about this one too. So rather than you can also have it, you don't have it in your mouth, the sparking mechanism. You would have it on in the hands or something like that, or it's
Hmm.
the claws at the end, or the tips at the ends of the wings. Again, it's like you're blowing that out and you're like trying to hit the ends of your fingertips. And maybe they have something that could start a spark, and then also it would be more of a explosion part too. But still, it's farther away from you because of wings are really long, for very good reasons. And I was like, oh, that could work too. Just bang,
Yeah.
and then scare a bunch of woodland creatures. Oh,
Eh,
that makes me think. So there's been evidence of hawks doing this. Like
Okay.
they're called firehawks, and they're out in Australia. So what they do is they will find like a branch that's on fire in one area, and start another fire in another area.
Australia's got the weirdest animals, man. And soon Wisconsin will have the weirdest animals once we start bringing in kangaroos.
Oh, here's something. Because like if you have requirement, like if they're producing like methane or something like that, so like cows, goats, giraffes, deer, they all kind of have that in their digestive process that they're going to release some methane because of the bacteria in their gut.
Mhm.
So that would also mean that dragons can't be carnivores because they would have to
Ah.
eat a bunch of fibrous material to feed the
Mhm.
bacteria in their stomachs.
Now, in that case, would something like, say, because in a certain book series that I read, they're not dragons, they're like giant lizards that they call Dracus. They basically, like, knock down trees and eat the entirety of the tree, starting at the tops and working their way to the roots.
Yeah, that would work, but depending on the size of the dragon, I would think that would cause a lot of more issues because even if they're not digesting it, they still have that's a lot of energy and everything for them to eat it. So therefore, they're not really getting anything out of it except for the methane that they can produce. So like that's probably not as cost effective because that's another big thing about it is like bang for your buck. So then, like, how do you actually affect your weight and everything else because you just ate a tree and you don't have room then for food that you need to eat now? So that's where the whole issue of like storage of the gas comes in, because like
Well,
you just ate a whole tree that produces a lot of gas, but you're just burping and farting it up then.
could there be a balance struck at some
Oh,
point? Like,
yeah, there probably is a
when
balance,
this
but I'm just saying like it couldn't be like they ate the whole tree unless the thing's like this giant
no, wait,
thing.
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be the whole tree, I'm just saying what theirs.
Yeah. But yeah, I would think that it would have to be like a you're just like they're taking bites out of trees
Yeah,
or other
yeah.
grasses.
Hey, don't don't take it up with me, take it up with Pat.
Nice
That's
job,
all I'm gonna
Pat.
say. Yeah.
Pat Sajak.
Pat Rothfuss is the one who wrote it, not me.
I was
What
just
the
rereading this stuff, and this was from Anne Marie's Helmenstein PhD. What the article that she was reading wrote, and it was dragons could store the necessary chemicals until it's time to use them, forcefully expel them, and ignite them either chemically or mechanically. Mechanical ignition can be as simple as generating sparks from crushing together electric crystals, piezoelectric materials like flammable chemicals already exist in animals, including teeth enamel, uh, dentine, dry bones, and tendons. So it's like, oh, that's a good purpose for like a lot of like eating something whole.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's neat. So
Yeah,
fire
see?
breathing is certainly possible. It hasn't been observed, but that doesn't mean no species has ever developed the ability. However, it's just as likely an organism to shoot fire might do so from the anus or specialized structure in the mouth. So, yeah, farting
Look,
fire. But
hey, I
so like I was talking about with like the evolution of like venoms and stuff like that and the whole spitting cobra thing. I wanted to circle back on that one because it was kind of cool because I was looking because in one of the articles that I was reading and they're talking about this in the video about spitting cobras was like so is a king cobra a cobra?
mm.
No, the answer
Am I
is no.
supposed to know this?
No, the answer is no. A king cobra is actually not a
I d
cobra. Is not a
All I
true
know is
cobra.
all I know is this, I don't like snakes. I don't like snakes at all.
Yeah.
I try to avoid them. They can live their lives over there, and I can live my life over here, and we don't have to meet, and that's perfectly fine by me.
But it just goes with like why I actually really enjoy biology and everything else is because of just there are so many things that it's like, well, we hope these things are true and they are connected, everything else, but we kind of can't know because a huge chunk of the material that we need for this information is dead.
Aw.
They don't exist anymore. We don't have the combining species for all these things because they died a million years ago and their bodies decayed and there's no DNA for us to compare. So all we can do is guesstimate and hope we're right.
So, what you're trying to say is that Jurassic Park is lying to us.
Oh, 100%. They even talk about that.
Boo!
They even talk about it in Jurassic World.
Thanks for killing the dream killer.
They did it in the movie. They actually talk about it.
Ugh.
They talk about
If
when they're
Michael
talking about the Indominus Rex, they're like, these aren't what dinosaurs look like. These are what we think dinosaurs look like. And we've already known this, and we've known this for decades now, that we literally can't clone a dinosaur. Every time I see an article about a perfectly preserved dinosaur specimen, and then I see comments underneath it, they're like, "Put it back! We've seen 5 movies about how this is a bad idea." Blah blah blah. I was like, literally, we can't do that. We
Yeah.
can't clone a dinosaur. We can't probably even clone a mammoth. We can possibly recreate a mammoth from Asian mammoth, ancient, not ancient, Asian elephant DNA because those are the closest relatives, and we can reactivate some of the DNA in there, but that's about it. We can't actually clone anything with it.
Well, tell them to get going on that. Chop chop. Come on.
It's hard.
Get on it.
And also, then you also have a bunch of people with like, oh, there's ethical issues. We can't do that. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Damn ethics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do we even have to have them?
Because of Nazis.
Oh,
They
Well,
ruined everything.
so wait.
I'm not.
So you're telling me that we got to invoke Godard's law for this one?
Yeah.
Always goes back to the Nazis.
No, actually, it actually started way before them. But the Nazis really republic with all the really horrible things that they did. But even though we've still done unethical experiments,
Let's
Yeah.
burn down dragons.
Burn it down. Okay, so
so
we got about 20 minutes left on this.
so
What else do we gotta
basically,
talk
really,
about?
because we're only dealing. So that was I just end with this is. I'm not going to say this is the mechanism that it should be. And this is the only way it could be. Because, like I said before, it's like in Dragon lore, there are multiple ways of doing it. Like, if you can find something better, awesome. And like, if we ever have listeners, if you guys
Yeah.
do find stuff or have anything, I want to know, and I like find me documentation. Don't like just make something up like I basically am, because it
That's
doesn't.
our job.
That's our job,
Yeah.
darn it. We're the ones making stuff up as we go along. I want to know what you guys would think. What would be the best way to like actually be able to breathe fire and also actually be able to breathe ice? So let's see if you can if anybody can figure that one out because I don't no idea.
Ah.
I'm like somehow produce the not icy hot, the ice packs, like how they kind
Yeah.
of instantly freeze like that, an endothermic reaction that just all the heat. But
Yeah.
once again, I think that would have to be like you spray it onto a person and then it happens, and then they go. Ah.
Yeah. But so I mean, with the idea though of like, would you rather if like let's say you could build let's say you could build your creature.
Yeah.
What would you rather have? Would you rather have it be like a chemical reaction, or would you rather have it be a mechanical reaction to create the flame?
I think it would be most cost effective in the ways of like because that's how everything works in biology too is like being cost effective. So it just
Yeah.
you oh this is something that also I was thinking about too. Brings back to comic books too. The Tobey Maguire suit when he had the organic webs. It's
Yeah.
like the problem with that is the amount of material that he has to produce. Think about like how tiny spider thread is. And like it can produce a lot of it, but it doesn't do it all at once. It's slowly producing this material. And also it's like it's a bunch of stuff inside the body and it's all kind of weird. Then it's all stretchy and stuff like that. But I'm like, it's very different than like the webbings on his wrists. Because it's like that's a how you can't be infinite amount of doing this. Like it have to be like oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
Unless he had like a big jug in his forearm.
Yeah. He'd
And
have
it was
he'd
like
have Popeye. He'd have to have bigger than Popeye forearms. At that point.
basically. And so it'd have to be the same thing with dragons and they're like being able to breathe fire. It's like, yeah, you can breathe fire, but like there is a severe limit to how much you can breathe out at one time or for a long time because bodies are, finite in space unless they somehow developed extra dimensional pockets. That ain't
Let's try
gonna
and keep it
happen.
at least. Let's try and keep it somewhat in like the idea of reality if we're gonna do this.
Exactly.
What? They couldn't have had a advanced civilization where the scientists discovered the way to connect their bodies to an interdimensional storage facility?
No,
Now
no, they can't.
you're sounding like me last episode.
No, yeah, that's the saddest thing about a lot of these things that we're gonna now analyze. Is just like there literally is no like ability for some of this stuff, like just for space saving purposes, or like because so eventually I'm probably gonna draw what this thing will look like, and it's not gonna be as it can be elegant, but it's not going to be as fearsome in many aspects of like
Uh,
seeing this big giant monster with giant scales and giant horns and all this other stuff because it's like no, because then he can't fly. You
yeah,
can't have infinite amount of gas because for flames and stuff, then they can't fly. Even if you say, well, they like the whole thing of like, oh, they're producing hydrogen and everything else. Do you know how much hydrogen it would take to actually do like a long spray? And then that means that it's also compressed in the body, so it's a liquid which is heavy. So therefore, you can't fly
yeah,
because otherwise, unless you have like or like the Flight of Dragons where they're kind of balloon shaped, like
yeah,
that's what you will get is this weird looking, goofy creature that isn't all that intimidating and all that fast.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
But so I mean, would it
I love
make
the fact
more
that, like,
sense then?
at the end of all this is when it's all, like, really spewing out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems like at least based off of what, like, let's say we end up with essentially a Wyvern.
Yeah,
We're gonna end up.
yeah, that's
So we're essentially trying to end up with. We're gonna end up with a Wyvern. Would it make more sense than to do something that would be a more mechanical process? Like it would just naturally like expel like a gas or something that it could then, or would that be the more conservative? Would
that's
that be
the
the
most
more like
conservative.
economical
Yeah,
approach?
yeah, that's the economical approach. And, like, it only has 1 gas and then it sparks it?
Yes.
Yes, that probably would be the best because no, maybe not. It depends because yeah, I would have to look at, like, the actual compression rates and all this other stuff for some of these other chemicals. Because it was like if just the 2 chemicals that kinda mix together
Yeah.
and then blow, up, then there's a bunch of other components. But then
I
also
mean, yeah. That would.
we can say, maybe we don't wanna have it breathe fire. Maybe it does just or goes the route of the spitting cobra and spits venom
Yeah.
or acid or something,
So kind
which would
of
be kind
going
of
with a more, yeah. So kind of go with a more of the old school super traditional, like super, super duper, like original kind of concept of dragon,
yeah,
like the poison spitter.
yeah, toxic breath.
Yeah.
But then
Mm.
also, the only problem with that one is, uh, it's probably still it's not like it's gonna be really immune at all levels depending on like how the poison is developed and what it is and because I'm like you can have like antibodies for like venoms and stuff like that, hence like how we have anti-venoms, um but like there's a limit to that in some. I know that,
Yeah.
but
Ooh.
or they
Ooh,
just don't breathe fire
yeah.
and they just don't have anything like that and they just are giant flying lizards that eat people.
Okay. This is one
Oh,
that I've
oh,
thought
oh,
about. Oh,
or they get a stick and they just rub their hands together and they start a
yeah.
fire that way.
Stick, stick, stick,
That's
stick,
why
stick.
they need that's why they need trees that have
Ah,
tar in them. They just
Okay.
carry it around with them.
Okay. I know we've brought this up before on this. What about acid spits?
yeah, acid spit. So here's the thing that I didn't like. I never really thought about. So you know the acidic table and like acid base table. So what does that
Yeah.
table go to? Do you like what do you
Usually it
remember?
goes up to, I believe it doesn't it go up to like doesn't it go up to like 12, I thought, or 14?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I think maybe.
I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1 to 7 is acid,
Yeah.
7 to 14 is base. So,
Yeah.
so is 1 the most powerful acid there is?
Probably not.
You're right. I think it's like, to the negative 23rd power
Yeah.
is like, one of the strongest acids, and basically that acid is like the acid from, um, Alien.
Ah,
Yeah, it's,
nice.
that one is, a fluoridic acid.
Okay.
And it's like scary powerful. It's like one of the most. I watched this online video once, and it was like the 10 scariest substances known to man, or the most
Mhm.
somewhat known to man, because that one was one of them. It's like the most powerful acid. It's like to the third power, and I was just like,
Yeah.
And since how I like how it is, that's an exponential curve. So well, I guess
Yeah.
like that the going down. So it's just like so one that's an order of magnitude,
Yeah.
and it's just like
I know I was talking to someone about. Yeah. I cannot remember, but I know I was talking to someone about we were talking about doing something and using like the idea of hydrofluoric acid, and I don't remember who it was, but
mhm. Yeah,
that shit is dangerous.
yes, it is. Like I said, that's basically what they like, is the acid in the alien for the alien blood.
Yeah.
And the only problem with that is we couldn't do it that way because of but it would have to be like basically they would have to have like Teflon coated
Mhm.
vein something so they could spit it out
Yeah.
because and it would actually have to be based life form they
Yeah.
had talked about for the alien, like that's the only way that it would have could be that way. So I think I don't with the
Yeah.
dragon just because of the plain and simple we're not silicon based and most things on the planet aren't
Yeah.
silicon based. That's
Yeah.
not carbon based. That's alive because rock
Yeah.
technique.
Yeah. Well, see, now you're making. See, now I'm thinking about the movie Evolution.
Yeah, evolution is one that's also a really interesting game too, or game,
Yeah.
movie too, because of all this other stuff. And they get like a lot of the notions right, but
Yeah.
they, the one with the idea of how they're approaching it is so they have it that everything it just evolves real fast. You know what also
Yeah.
mutates and evolves real fast? Cancer
Cancer.
cells. Yeah, if you have nothing like they can't evolve that fast because that's basically what cancer is. So all those things probably
Yeah.
would die real quick too. Now, if it was
Yeah.
because like small cells, they can evolve fast because they also have a
Yeah.
very short life expectancy. And by fast, I mean you can have several generations in like a week. And like I think it was like in the last 2000 years, what was it? It was like it's only like 40 generations or 400 generations. What are the two? One of the I can't remember. For like how everything was like the beginning of us writing shit down. It's only been like
Yeah.
that many generations. And you just go,
Wow.
"Holy crap. That's right. That's not that many."
Yeah.
So that's why they can evolve faster because they have a way shorter life expectancy. So like in this is actually a really cool thing. It was on Cracked. They talked about this is years ago before they fired all like a lot of their good writers. On After Hours, they talked about this of the problem with like Jurassic Park. One of the
Yeah.
problems is so in there they talk about how they've had this technology to clone things and everything starting in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That would mean that they would have to have been cloning these things since the 70s because that's how life works. Things grow.
Yeah.
Now, if you said something like, "Oh, they just sped up their development time," basically like in Attack of the Clones, how they had like them
Yeah.
they can develop into an adult in 10 years. It's like, yeah, but that also means that their
Their life
metabolism,
cycle would be.
yeah, also means that means they would have to eat twice as much food.
Yeah.
And also, that would mean they shit twice as much.
Well, then Ellie Sattler would have enough droppings to be able to identify what's making making the Triceratops sick. I
Exactly.
don't see a problem with
The
this.
problem
That
is,
explains that huge pile.
yeah,
Yeah.
except that whole huge pile was from an entire herd. That would
Yeah.
basically mean that it was one of them. And you would run out of
Yeah.
space on a tiny island.
This-
Now you
I
just
yeah.
spread it out like we do on our fields.
Yeah,
You
and
get a
then give
special machine that shits it out.
yeah, and then you give them diseases because that's how you get diseases.
Just remember, John Hammond spared no expense for the last 30 years before he gets there.
Also, no, he
That's
didn't.
how
If he didn't,
that's
Yeah.
how he
if he didn't spare
that's
any expense, then how? Why is Nedry complaining about not getting enough money? Because also he's the only guy. Why wouldn't you have an
I
entire
know.
team?
I agree with you on that one. I do feel like Nedry wouldn't have. I feel like if Nedry was doing well, but maybe he's that person, as Bender once said, it's not about the money, although I could use a little more.
No, what it is how he can spare no expense is it's all purely on the fertilizer industry. He was selling the dino's poop.
Oh,
That's how he made the money for the.
I thought he made his money in flea circuses.
That's how he started.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, that's the only way he that much money to be like, I'm sparing no expense. It's like, well, good, because yeah, you would need a lot of manure to sell around the world to have it, but it has to be really good. And I don't know. Also, these things can't survive properly because of all the gut bacteria they don't have.
Yeah, the lysine deficiency. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's look, I love the again,
I love them.
science fiction is fun science fiction is fun because we get to do this shit that we can't get away with.
Yes. So okay, I will try to try. I will establish hopefully what we should be talking about next time.
Okay.
Basically, it's going to be talking about metabolism and if cold-blooded versus warm-blooded, what it would probably be, and then also talk about their diet and hoarding
Yay.
because
Okay.
that's
Cool.
something I have some ideas about that could be cool.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I'm all for that.
Nice.
hmm
A Real Creature Feature is created by Matt Kuklinski, starring Matt Kuklinski, Michael Seaman, and Dean Snow. Any questions, comments, artwork, or general inquiries can be sent to realcreaturefeature@gmail.com. You can view any submitted fan art and pictures on our Instagram at A Real Creature Feature. Some episodes were recorded weeks in advance due to our current sporadic recording schedule. Any comments left will be seen and addressed at some point, and you will be credited unless you tell us you wish to remain anonymous. If you like the podcast, please leave a review on the podcast app that works best for you. It really helps us out. Also, tell your friends, enemies, and total strangers about the podcast. They might enjoy it too, and that can bring us all closer together.